I think it's safe to say that almost everyone in this world has heard of John Deere in some way, shape, or form. John Deere himself was a blacksmith from Grand Detour, Illinois. In 1837, John Deere created the first plow. He made this plow so pioneer farmers could cut through sticky Midwest prairie soil and make clean furrows. Shortly after that, John Deere created the riding cultivator. This was very innovative because farmers then didn't have to walk anymore, and it saved their bodies from a lot of physical abuse. John Deere soon after that handed the company over to Charles Deere in 1858. In 1877, John Deere made a corn planter, which this saved a ton of time because farmers no longer had to go along and plant their crops by hand, which also allowed them to be much more efficient and farm more ground and produce more for the population that was also growing around them. In 1886, John Deere died, and this created a new era, almost as if he was the dying of the original era. Steam tractors were born, but John Deere did not jump on the bandwagon immediately. Instead, they started producing things for the tractors to pull. The Waterloo tractor, Deere soon got into the tractor market. They bought out the maker of the Waterloo tractors. The Waterloo tractors become John Deere's main product, and even though in their first year of production they sold over 5,000 tractors, which is very impressive, Ford sold more than 34,000 of their Fordson tractor. So it was obvious that John Deere was falling behind. Because of the failing Waterloo boy, Deere launches the Model D tractor in 1923, which was the first tractor to bear the John Deere name and went over very well. It stayed in production line for nearly 30 years. Even though the Model D was a huge success, other companies such as Farmall were producing more versatile tractors. So in 1925, Deere begins the design for the GP, or the General Purpose Tractor. In 1927, John Deere produces its first combine, which is huge because farmers no longer have to harvest their crops by hand. This also allows them to be way more efficient and produce more crops for the growing population. Their first combine was called a John Deere No. 2, and just a year later they advertised the John Deere No. 1. But in just a few years later, they replaced them with newer, more lightweight machines. In 1929, John Deere introduces the general purpose tractor they'd been advertising some years before. It is their first row crop tractor, which means the tires fit between the rows of crops, allowing the farmers to operate the tractor in the field without damaging the crops. This saves the farmer from having to make numerous trips up and down the field by hand, walking, or by running over crops. By 1930, there are only 7 full-line ag equipment companies remaining. This is a big game change from how it was before, because before there was several small companies all over the place producing the same thing as you, being in your competitive market. And now you just have 6 other big companies to worry about. In 1934, Deere produced the Model A. This changed the game big time. This was Deere's best-selling tractor of all time. Soon after that, they created the Model B, which was very similar, but just a little bit smaller. These models will remain in production until 1954, almost a 20-year reign. During World War II, just like many other companies, John Deere was limited on how many civilian tractors and equipment they could produce. Instead, they began producing military vehicles and other needed military machines. In 1947, John Deere changed the game yet again by producing the Model M tractor. This was a stockier built tractor that they then added tracks to, making it a crawler. Deere then added a blade to the front of the tractor, making the company's first, what you might know as a bulldozer today. From there on, Deere continued to own the ag market. They were growing and innovating at an insane rate. Their tractors were getting bigger and stronger, their planters and cultivators were getting wider and more efficient. Their combines were getting faster and more powerful. Nothing could stop the roll at this point. Today, John Deere is still the leader in the ag world. They produce everything you can think of, from tillage to planting, to tractors to combines, and they currently completely own the cotton picker world with their self-bale-making picker. They do still have competition from many of the same companies that ran against them in their entire career, such as Case and International Harvester, who are now merged, being Case IH. Deere is an ag and construction industry superpower, and I don't see their reign ending anytime soon, because my family has been farmers for 5 generations now, and we use John Deere, and there's nothing else that we would use.